Did you ever hear about the magical black cat that lived in the sleepy town of Dunshire? Once upon a time, nestled between moss-covered hills and a sapphire-blue river, lay the town of Dunshire. It was a quiet, serene place where everyone knew everyone else, and life was as predictable as the rising sun. But there was one resident of Dunshire that added a splash of mystery to the town's otherwise ordinary existence. This was Shadow, the enchanting black cat. Shadow was not your everyday feline. She was as black as a moonless night, with eyes that shimmered like twin stars. Her sleek coat glistened under the sun, and her agile movements were as graceful as a ballet dancer's. But it wasn't just her striking appearance that made Shadow unique. It was her behavior, her mysterious aura, that truly set her apart. She was known to disappear for days on end, only to reappear in the most unexpected places at the least expected times. She would often be spotted on the rooftops at dawn, gazing at the rising sun, or by the river at dusk, watching the water with an intense, contemplative stare. Yet despite her oddities, or perhaps because of them, the townsfolk adored Shadow. Children would rush to pet her, and adults would share tales of the strange occurrences that seemed to follow her wherever she went. Shadow brought a certain charm to Dunshire, a touch of whimsy that the townsfolk found endearing. She was a beloved figure, a magical black cat that danced on the rooftops at dawn and watched over the town at twilight. Her presence was a comforting constant in the tranquil routine of Dunshire life. But there was one extraordinary thing about Shadow that made her stand out from all the other cats in Dunshire. And that, dear listeners, is a tale for the next scene. Stay tuned to uncover the secrets of our enchanting black cat, Shadow. Have you ever wondered what makes Shadow so special? Well, let's dive into the enchanting world of Shadow, the magical black cat. You see, Shadow wasn't just your ordinary black cat. Oh no, she had a unique gift. A gift that was as mesmerizing as the twinkling stars in the night sky. Shadow had the power to bring happiness to people simply by being around them. It was as though she exuded a magical aura, a warm, glowing energy that radiated from her sleek black fur. It was an energy so potent, so powerful, that it could turn even the gloomiest of days into a day filled with joy and laughter. Now the people of Dunshire, the little town where Shadow lived, started noticing something peculiar. Their problems, big or small, seemed to vanish whenever Shadow was near. If Mrs. Baker was having a bad day because her pies weren't selling, all it took was a visit from Shadow, and suddenly her bakery would be bustling with customers. Or if little Timmy was feeling lonely because he couldn't find anyone to play with, a playful chase with Shadow would instantly lift his spirits. It was as if Shadow had a magic touch. Her presence was like a soothing balm, healing the hearts and minds of those around her and filling them with happiness. And the more she spread her magic, the brighter her eyes gleamed, like two emerald stars against her black fur. But here's the thing. Shadow's magic wasn't just about making people happy. It wasn't just about making problems disappear. It was something much more profound, something that made her truly special. It was about making people believe in the magic of kindness, the magic of love, and the magic of friendship. But Shadow's magic was not just about making problems disappear. It was about spreading joy and positivity, and most importantly, it was about touching people's hearts in a way that they would never forget. So, what was the true secret behind Shadow's magic, you might wonder? Well, let's unravel that mystery together. Shadow's magic was a little different than what you might expect. You see, Shadow was not a typical spellcasting feline. She didn't wave a wand or chant mysterious incantations. No, her magic was much more subtle, and yet infinitely more powerful. Shadow had a unique way of seeing the world. She could gaze into the heart of the most complicated knot of a problem and see the loose end that, once pulled, would unravel the whole thing. But here's the catch. She didn't just magically make these problems disappear. No, Shadow's magic was all about perspective. When the villagers of Dunshire came to her with their troubles, she'd listen. She'd look at them with her deep emerald eyes, and then she'd purr. She'd purr a melody so calming, it was as if the world itself was slowing down. And in that moment of tranquility, the villager would suddenly see their problem in a new light, a way they hadn't considered before, making it seem less daunting, less impossible. Shadow's magic was about helping people see their problems differently. A problem that once seemed like a giant, terrifying dragon could turn out to be just a small, mischievous lizard under Shadow's influence. She had this wonderful ability to make things that seemed big and scary feel small and manageable. Through her guidance, the people of Dunshire learned to face their fears, to overcome their obstacles, not by running away, but by understanding them better. And that, my friends, was the true secret behind Shadow's magic. But our story doesn't end here. But one day, a big problem came to Dunshire that seemed too large for even Shadow to handle. And that, dear listener, is where our next chapter begins. Can you guess what the big problem was? Well, it was something that no one in Dunshire ever thought they would have to face. The town, once flourishing with green fields and sparkling streams, was now experiencing a severe drought. The once lush meadows had turned to dust, and the streams which used to gush with clear water had now dried up. The crops were wilting, and the people of Dunshire, they were losing hope. In the midst of this, our enchanting black cat Shadow was deeply troubled. She was not just an ordinary cat, remember? She had magic, but she was facing a problem that seemed too large, even for her magical abilities. Shadow tried to use her magic to summon rain, but the skies remained as dry as the fields below. She tried to enchant the streams to flow again, but the water refused to bubble up from the parched earth. Shadow was at her wit's end. She had never faced a problem so big, a problem that her magic couldn't solve. It seemed like the severe drought was something that even Shadow, with all her magical prowess, was powerless against. This was not just about the land or the crops anymore. It was about the people of Dunshire, the friends she had made, the children who loved to chase her around the town square. They were losing hope, and Shadow couldn't bear to see that. But here's the thing about Shadow, she was a fighter, and she was not one to give up easily. She knew she had to do something, anything, to bring back the hope that was fading from the eyes of the townsfolk. She knew she had to find a way to make the rain fall and the streams flow again. But Shadow was not about to give up. She was determined to find a solution, no matter how big the problem was. After all, sometimes it's the smallest creatures who can make the biggest difference. Do you want to know how Shadow saved the day? Well, Shadow, the magical black cat, didn't wave his tail this time or flick his whiskers to cast a spell. No, he chose to approach things differently. He realized that the water crisis in Dunshire was too big for one cat to handle alone, even a magical one like him. Instead of trying to make the problem disappear, Shadow decided to bring the townsfolk together. He began to visit each home, each farm, each shop. His striking black fur and mysterious glowing eyes were a familiar sight to everyone in the town. And with each visit, he shared his idea, his plan to solve the water crisis. The townsfolk listened. How could they not? Shadow was not just a cat. He was a friend, a confidant, a beacon of hope. And so they agreed to work together, to unite as a town. They realized that unity and cooperation were more potent than any magic Shadow could conjure up. And so they set to work. The farmers shared their water reserves, the shopkeepers rationed the supplies, and the children helped carry water to those in need. They worked day and night under the watchful eyes of Shadow. Their efforts were fueled by a newfound sense of community and the desire to protect their beloved town. As the days turned into weeks, the water crisis began to ease. The wells filled up, the fields turned green again, and the town of Dunshire breathed a sigh of relief. They had done it. They had overcome the crisis not by magic, but by unity and cooperation. And standing on the outskirts of the town, a proud smile on his face, was Shadow. He had not solved the problem by making it disappear. He had solved it by helping the people see it differently, by showing them the power of unity, the strength in numbers, and the magic within themselves. And that's how the magical black cat Shadow saved Dunshire.